Okay, so that's our recording notice. So what I wanted to do was go over the two different tools, like the riparian tool and the energy forecast model. And then I wanted to go over some ways of using the AppLCC portal. So some general information for that. Is there anything specific either of you wanted to see or had questions about?
At this point, I haven't had the time to really kind of delve into any of these, so I don't have any questions. It doesn't sound like we're going to touch on the LCD project on this call, or
we can. If you have questions, yeah, we can. We can go over that.
Okay. Well, I guess I was thinking that was more the tool that would kind of apply to, I think, would apply to kind of some of the work that we're trying to do in putting together a watershed prioritization for our land conservation work. I mean, I think these other tools could feed into that, sort of on a specific level, on those topics, but we are kind of working on a full watershed-wide scale, and I was hoping to be able to apply some of the work in the LCD kind of into that, but at this point, I don't necessarily understand, besides just the big blob that covers our whole area, how to take advantage of more of the detailed information that went into getting to that.
So I can provide, I'm not as well versed on the LCD. I can provide a general overview. We have different data layers that are available right now, and I can show this to you in our database and portal.
Okay.
And I can also show you the project page on the AppLCC portal.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about that a little bit, and I can at least show you that, and then you can explore those and see if that meets your needs. We're going through phase 2 right now, and part of the phase 2 project will be some of the aquatic integrity models and incorporating more of that into what was already done. That should be ready by the end of the month, but as of now, we don't have that up, and we don't have the interactive map available. What we had been working on was being able to, people would be able to click on a map, and it would give you information about the target species that were found within that small unit. That's not ready yet, but so I can kind of give an overview of what we have now, where we're going, and we could go from there, and then you could ask questions as needed. That's, I mean,
okay.
This call is for you guys, so I don't have a structure. I'm not going to give a presentation. I was simply going to go to the sites, walk you through them, because I just wanted to make sure it suited you and actually helped answer the questions you had.
Okay. All right. Great.
How about, did you have anything, Gillian, or did you guys just want me? I guess I can, and Gillian, if you have anything, let me know. If not, I'm just going to start with the portal.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, Jessica, I think I basically need to know like all the tools and all about the portal.
Yeah, Gillian needs to know everything.
But we could do that, after Kelly, if you need to get off the phone or anything like that.
So what I'll show first then, I'll go into some general portal information, and all I'm doing is just signing in. If you guys do not have a portal account, I can make you one. I didn't know I pressed something wrong, sorry.
Yeah, I think I just need to register, but I'm pretty sure that Michael created sort of something for us to utilize on the portal at this point, but I haven't had a chance to get on and register.
I can look. I can always look if you don't have an account. I can make. It's really simple. I literally need your name and your email address, and I have that. So.
Okay.
I am logged in. So I'll take you to the home page. So one of the features that's a little different about the AppLCC site, and so that's why we call it portal, is that it can have an interactive component of it. It's not built in the sense of a traditional website. I don't know if you've ever done any of that. So, but it allows users to interact and users uploading documents, so you don't have to have scripting language. And as a community, then the community contribute to the site and can add documents and that type of stuff. A lot of these main pages you'll predominantly see Matt Simatel. He does a lot of that, and Gillian will be doing some of that, and I've done some of this. So the members more contribute in like the specific groups, and I'll show you some of that. But that's just kind of one of the features of the portal that I just kind of wanted to get out there right away. This is the home page. You see these sliders here highlight different projects recently completed, big things that we really want to draw the user to. So you can click on any of these once the number is selected here. And you can click read more and it'll take you to more information. The stuff down here is, you know, basic information about the AppLCC and the plan. We have some tools buttons down here. These are kind of quick access things, links, another thing we wanted to draw your attention to. So these are different tools and assessment. This is part of coordinating landscape planning and design. And this link here, it might be something for you to take advantage of, is networking for the conservation community. And so this is a link to our expertise database. So if you're looking for someone of a particular skill set in a particular area, you can go here. I'll show you that in just a second. And also, this is a link to our new Conservation Planning Atlas on Databasin. And so this is where we'll go in a little bit to show you the landscape conservation design data layers. So that's all there as well. There's a picture of Gillian. So this is the expertise database, so you can see a map of where we are located, all of our members. There's some snippets from different people in the community. But the biggest thing you'd probably go to in this link is this expertise search. And you see what's really cool about this is you can search by different taxa groups, different habitat systems, and all these features here. You can search for, you know, someone by name. So this is a nice feature if you're just looking for different people to collaborate with. And each user goes in and fills this information out for themselves. So that's kind of what's nice about having multiple users from an organization, because they all might have different skills and expertise. And if they have their own account, then they can self-identify their areas of experience. That's the really quick and dirty version of the expertise database. I do have a lot of this stuff we have fact sheets on and handouts and additional information.
So are there people currently in the expertise database? Are there a lot of people, or is it mostly concentrated in that one area of Tennessee that you?
No. Oh no, they're all over the place. They're all over. Yeah, there's a lot of people. We have a lot of members. So if you want to just look for, what's the best? Let's look for aquatic systems. I'm not sure what will come up for this specific one. See, for aquatic systems, you're already going to have, you have 3 pages of results, and there's like, so you're having a significant number just on just that one parameter. So it is a pretty wide database. It's just, if you're looking for something specific, it can be really helpful too. And you see, these individuals put all these are their expertise that they self-identified as. And you can also, I mentioned the regions, so you can identify the region as well. And not everyone, the caveat is that not everyone might have put down the expertise region. So if you're searching by region, just keep that in mind, that that person might not have put that piece of information in, and it might make it harder to find them. But you can always, a lot of people who've done this will put their expertise in. So that's just a way to look for folks and different searching you can do. If any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I don't want to blow through it too fast. So next, I'll go back to that. Next, I'll show you, since you had some specific questions about the LCD, I can go into that, and then I can show you the rest of the things on the portal. So if you're on the home page here, you'll see that there's a plan and design. And so we actually have a page and a section of the site dedicated to the landscape conservation design. And if you go to plan and design, conservation design, you click, we're going to go into the home page, and this is all information regarding that project. So this is a really good resource about it, and you can see there's information on phase 1 of this effort. And the phase 1 is these layers that you've probably seen, these big areas, the corridors, all of that information. That is part of phase 1 of the project. And you also see, we've also currently in phase 2, so there's a consultation page for phase 2, and we had, you can see the list of webinars that we had regarding phase 2, so I'll go into that. And I wasn't, Mary Davis, our previous contractor, had been in charge of most of this, so I'm kind of coming in after the fact for this part of it. So, and there's what's really nice about some of these is you can go to, and you can view the presentations. Every time we had a coordination with the partners, it was recorded. So all those webinars that happened where they talked about the different aquatic integrity metrics that they wanted to use and how to establish thresholds, that all has been recorded. And there's also a link here to other assessments that were referenced when they were just having these discussions. That's this is a good resource for really getting an idea of what this project is and how it can be used.
And so for the phase 1 of the project, I mean, is that it? Is like that map that's up there, like a static map, what it is at this point?
That is a static map, but I can show you the data layers are available. So you can get the data layers. You can download them for use in your own system, or you can work with them and database them.
And so would the data layers be like a layer that shows that, I mean, I'm assuming that analysis, you know, of a variety of data layers, you know, ended up with that, you know, final map.
The target layers are not all posted. That's something we're working towards, but it is. There are a few, and I'll show you them. It's just something that is allocated to me as one of my responsibilities, and I've just been pulled. I've had a lot of other assignments and haven't been able to completely do that yet, but it will. It's going to happen eventually, but it's not all there yet, and I'll show you where those are. You can see there's a lot more information that's available to under this phase 1 research. So there's more information. There's some maps that have been made available, and these are the static maps, and I'm going to show you where to access them. It's taking a second to load. This has maps of all the individual core elements that were identified, but it seems like you would like, it would be better for you if I showed you the actual interactive data set. The data access just gives you information on the different components that are included. So you have your regionally connected cores, locally connected cores, and it gives you a very brief explanation on the differences between those layers, so you have an idea of what that data represents. And so there are 5 of those. One way you can access the data via this link right here, and that is a download of a zipped shapefile of all those data layers. So that doesn't allow you to preview it live. It's just going to download it to your system.
So I could just open that in my GIS and would have everything.
Yes.
I need.
There's also, yes, you can do that. There's also database and our database and portal, which is another way for users to not only access the data, but they can also visualize it, make maps. This is really nice for folks that maybe don't have the ArcGIS software on their own, or aren't as familiar or as comfortable with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I have it, but, you know, aside from doing very elementary things like, you know, I'm not proficient in any technical capacity and, you know, using it. I mean, I can make some basic maps and import layers and, you know, things like that, but other than that, that's about as far as my GIS skills go.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll show you real quick. This is, I mentioned Databasin. So this is our conservation planning atlas on Databasin. So I'm going to just, we can do a tour of this later if you want, and I'll probably be showing this to Gillian at some point. But so I wanted to go to the galleries, and we have a gallery for the landscape conservation design. I'm going to take you into that. You'll see there's a couple folders down here. You had asked about the underlying data. Well, so that's all the data that's in this, and there's only 5 data sets right now. The target layers, that is where all of that data will reside when I have finished preparing it and then uploading it. So. Okay,
so those, just to clarify, that would be like 4 different layers that you could download, and as you kind of turn them on and off, you could look specifically at brook trout habitat or warbler habitat, or, you know, whatever those other things say. It's a little small to read, but sometimes
because here you have brook trout highly suitable habitat within the AppLCC. You can preview the data here, and you can also open it in a map that you can actually interact with.
Okay. So when I need to interact with data, I need to be able to sort of interact with it at a parcel layer, or a watershed layer. Would I be able to bring this out into my system so I could then put my watershed or my parcels on top of it, or would I be able to bring my parcel layer or watershed layer into this platform?
You can. You could approach it either way. If your parcel layer, is that publicly available data?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I got it from the counties, but I signed something that said we would just use it for our own use.
In that case, that's the caveat. I mean, Databasin is best for publicly available data layers because you can restrict it, but I wouldn't put anything with any personally identifiable information or anything with any data sensitivities into Databasin.
Okay.
In your case, what I would do then is I would download the data and use it within your system.
Okay.
But you can see, this is just the resolution of this. You know, you can go in pretty fine here. You can see the raster resolution, pretty small.
So that's potential habitat.
Yeah, that's the highly suitable, brook trout highly suitable habitat.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's just an example of it. You can view you get the preview, and then you can go in. Another thing about Databasin is that you can do some really basic analysis too, which is actually kind of cool. You can do buffers, and you can do some site assessment tools. So they're grayed out right now because I only have 1 data layer in this map. But that's just something to keep in mind if you're using Databasin, just a quick Databasin plug.
Mhm.
So, and then you can make maps for printing and all that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, I mean, part of, through this work, you know, with you all, not only am I trying to figure out how my organization can take advantage of the tools that you guys have, but try to provide input to you all on sort of how other land trusts might be able to use this, or how to sort of frame this information so it's not overwhelming to lay people in the land trust world, and what sort of maybe pull out a couple of the different features that, you know, might make might be easy enough for people to use, not too scientifically wonky to scare people away, and they could, you know, see some applicability for, you know, for the, you know, the group that doesn't have GIS technical ability. So I think that you were talking about could be sort of one of those things. I mean, my organization might, you know, try to take it a little bit further as far as bringing it down to the parcel layer, but I could see a value for others in just understanding in their service area, you know, what these features are, and being able to print a map would be, you know, would be huge for them. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot to take in. I'm kind of just throwing a bunch of little stuff at you. So also I mentioned the phase 1. So I have a map which incorporates the 5 different elements of the phase 1 analysis. I also have the irreplaceability and the species richness layers here as well, and we had these to incorporate into a Southeast Partnership blueprint with a lot of the other LCCs. But you can go in and you can see the species, richness throughout the Appalachian LCC region. And this is, caveat, this is the species richness for the target species that were assessed. So just, you know, keep that in mind.
And those are listed somewhere?
That's probably in the report. The list is not provided within the data or the metadata. Okay. But if you look through the report, it gives you a list of the target species that were looked at.
Okay. I mean, is it like hundreds or like a handful?
It's not hundreds.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, Kelly, I can speak a little bit. I'm learning all about the LCD right now, but yeah, there's a phase 1 kind of report, final report that I've been reading, and it really has helped me figure out kind of what the target species were, you know, because there's some models that were, you know, species distribution models were used, and then there's some conservation targets where it's at a coarser scale. So that, the PDF that Jessica is showing, that kind of really helped me to understand it, and it's kind of, it's easy to read along even if you aren't a GIS specialist, because I'm not that type of person as well. And then just to let you know, too, where my role is I work, so my fellowship is it's an AppLCC fellowship, but I'm hosted by Clemson, so I work directly with the researchers doing this, and one part of my job is to deliver the LCD to folks like you, but also, like you were saying, hear from you guys what you think would be helpful, say, for the land trust stakeholders to be able to utilize this LCD for, if there's other things you think you'd like to see in it. But yeah, this PDF was really helpful, and it kind of goes over the species and the models that were used, and might help you get a better understanding. It's helped me out a lot, so.
Okay. One thing I would say, if you're, and like I think this is just sort of a general comment that I'll just sort of throw out there, and I imagine that most of sort of my thinking when thinking through how are groups like land trusts or local watershed organizations, you know, going to be sort of feel confident and interested and, you know, comfortable using this information. I think and I'll probably say this over and over, is like all this like super technical scientific stuff is gonna like scare them away. It's like, if I have to read like a 10-page scientific report to understand like what this map is going to tell me, then like I don't think people will do it. So I guess my suggestion on a lot of these things is like, you know, most land trusts aren't going to need to be like pulling out like citations of research and, you know, really like delving into kind of what went into this data from like, you know, like defending the science sort of point of view. They're basically going to say, you know, a bunch of smart people came up with this, and this is what they said, and this is what it means. And like that's kind of where I think a lot of at least kind of your smaller local land trusts will, I mean, yeah, the Nature Conservancy, who has a much higher capacity for like a technical science background, is different, but you know, a lot of land trusts just don't have that, you know, hard science thing. So one of the things that I'm going to try to do is sort of, you know, weed through some of these things and try to like pull out like, you know, a dumbed down summary of, okay, well, what does this actually like mean for the rest of the world that's not in academia and who's thinking about just, you know, everyday conservation on the ground in their local community. So that's all I'll say on that. But I feel like for land trusts and local watershed organizations to use this, it can't be scary and scientific, even though it's based on all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah. But Jessica, I think, are there fact sheets developed for the LCD, or is that something that we have to work on?
I don't think that we have a fact sheet for the LCD, which we could easily draft something based on, you know, information that's within this LCD, this page. I'll go back to the home page. Or let me see, usually the quick links, if there's a fact sheet, it'll be linked there. So this one does not necessarily have one, but that would be a good thing to put on a list of things to do, because we have fact sheets for the riparian tool, for the energy forecast model. And Matt did an overview fact sheet that he had sent to the steering committee of all the different projects, but this does not have a fact sheet for itself.
Yeah, and maybe there's like a fact sheet for the layman and then a fact sheet, you know, for the scientist or technical, you know, user or something.
Yeah, so different audience types. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Is there anything else, Gillian, you wanted to say about this? Because you are more involved with the LCD than I am.
Yeah, I think what Kelly said is that I think you can really just look at it as a basic tool to guide you guys in your strategy. Okay, where is there more strategic to visit with landowners or put outreach out to maybe try to project some of these linkages or corridors, or does these counties that the land trust cover, does it even fall into these, you know, into any of these linkages or any of these corridors or focal areas? So I think it can, I mean, there's a lot of science that went into it, but I think it really can help guide, say, smaller land trusts or even larger land trusts to kind of be more strategic and figure out where, you know, they should be visiting with folks. But there is that tool that's going to come out, I think Paul said, in October. I think it's one of the tools. And I think the steering committee for the LCC wants to see a lot of outreach, and I think that's a large part of my role too. So I think, Kelly, in the future there'll be a lot more outreach opportunity for when this kind of interactive tool comes out. And I don't know how intense the tool is, if someone who has GIS skills like me can easily utilize it, or if you have to have GIS skills like the folks at Clemson or like Jessica. But I think it will be an easy way for you to kind of scale down to your region in your area and see kind of where the tool can guide you, or give you more evidence when you're writing proposals for grants or funding. You can reference the tool and stuff like that.
Right, and I think the reality and the way that I will most use, the way I'm hoping, and I'm hoping I'll be able to use this. I don't know if that's reality, because I think we'll know more when the tool comes out in October. Is that I'll be able to sort of drill down into sort of our watershed, and when we're working on projects, I'll be able to use the science and the information that went into this LCD to make the case for the conservation that we're trying to get on the ground. So, in some ways, it'll be useful to talking to landowners, but for me, I think it'll be more useful in talking to, like, potential funders or sort of these larger, conservation players to say, hey, look, according to, yada, 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 this is an important area, and, we need to be able to do work here, and so that's why you should give us lots of money or help us out. But, I mean, that's how I am hoping, our organization will be able to use this tool.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan, and that's a lot of how we would like, I'd definitely like to see people use the tools in that capacity.
So I guess on the LCD, it's sort of, at this point, it's still a little bit premature to kind of delve too far into it, but I could at least download some of the data sets and bring them into kind of my GIS system and play around with them a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll show you, so you can look, like I said, I showed you the species richness, and then you also have the irreplaceability. So that the species richness is nice. It gives you an idea of the number of different species within an area, but also the irreplaceability was a really important component, because that gives you an idea of locations that are really important. Even though they might not have a lot of species, they could be really unique, and they're really important to protect because they're not found everywhere in the region. So that one's a good one to keep an eye, to think about and incorporate. This map I'm going to open and show you. This has the 5 different core layers included in it. It does not have irreplaceability and threat, but if someone was using this and using database and exclusively instead of downloading the data, they could easily add those data layers. These maps can be added too. If you sign up for a free database account, you can make all kinds of changes.
Okay, and I could easily upload the boundary of our watershed in there. I mean, that's like public information and make
that would be, if that's something you want to do, I can. If you want to email me that shape file, I mean, I think I have the Cape and watershed, but if you have a specific shape file, send it to me and I can get it hooked up into database and you wouldn't even have to worry about it then, and then I could put it in. That would be. Yeah,
I mean, it'd basically just be the outline of the watershed. So Jean and I are supposed to, like, give a presentation on September 30th about this. Not that we've talked about what on earth we're going to say, but I'd like to try to make a few maps or something to kind of illustrate. I mean, it's a little early in the process to be, like, giving a presentation on sort of what we're trying to do together, but hey, it is what it is, and so I need to try to, like, make a few products that I could sort of show as, like, a demonstration of, like, how we as a local land trust are kind of starting to use these tools, and then I can say, you know, in the future when these other, you know, phases are complete, we can do these other things. But
and so you can see this map. I've zoomed in, and you can see that the map details is what's on there when you automatically come up. But this is not static, so you can see in here, you can turn these data layers on and off. You can add data sets, so you can search for items within the entire database and platform. This doesn't even have to be a data set that we host. You can, if it's anywhere on database and at all, you can add it to the map. So that's really cool. And then
And how do you know what all is on Databasin?
Databasin is massive. So there may be a watershed that your watershed probably isn't, but you can search here, or you can actually browse for different data sets. And so there's a lot of cool things you can do and you can add. And so there's like just different search ways, different search features you can use. So like I said, once you send me that shapefile, I'll get your watershed uploaded, and then you could add your watershed to any of these maps. Or, or you can put all these data on your local system, and you can have it set up both ways too. So that's a nice thing that you can do. So these layers, so you can see these are nice. You can zoom in as far as you want, add data layers. That's just, and then as you can see, like these are showing as I'm clicking them on and off. You can see the different data sets that are showing up. So this is a really nice feature for a lot of people who don't have more GIS skills. It's less intimidating than trying to open ArcMap software or whatever, or if you use any open source GIS software. So it's a lot easier for a user just to pick up, especially one that's not going to do GIS that much. So this is, the CPA is something, we just went public with it at the end of August. So there's yeah, so this is a really new development for us, so it's something I spent a lot of time on. I need to spend even more time on getting more and more data sets up there. But, so this is something we're really going to be, showing to a lot of users and trying to get input. A lot of the other LCCs have something very similar, almost. So we're really trying, we're trying to put all of our data from all of our projects will eventually be in here. You'll also be able to download shapefiles from our portal, but we're also, so it's going to be in 2 locations to really make it easy for everyone to find, to use, and to have different options for people to utilize it.
And are you able to, so 2 questions. So like if I wanted to say look at that map and then also look at the species irreplaceability, I could just click on the add data sets and then click on the species irreplaceability and it would bring that up.
Yeah, so I'll do this.
That's how it works.
So you wanted to, let's say we want to look at irreplaceability. Third. And so it brought up the irreplaceability. So all I'm going to do is click on that. And you can select more than one at a time. So you don't have to do one, add data set. You can add one. You can add 2 or 3 data sets at a time. You just click, make sure the little checkbox there is clicked. And then you add the item. Oh, your limit is 5 layers. Oh, I'm not signed in. Hold on. Let me sign. I'm sorry. I did not even, let me sign in real quick to my database and account. And then I'll be able to, so like I said, database and accounts are free, and so all you have to do, before I signed in, there was a sign up, so you click that and you can get information and get registered for databasing so that you can add more data layers. I'll have to reopen the map, I think. 1 second. I should have signed in before, but I didn't even think about it. So I'll show you real quick how easy it is to add those layers.
So you can do a little bit. You can do a little bit without signing in or getting an account. But if you want to kind of do a bunch of stuff, you would.
Yeah, if you wanted, you can view all the data, but I believe to download and to make any changes to the maps, you would need to sign in.
Okay.
And that's super. Like I said, it's easy to do. And if anybody has any questions on that. But if they're just wanting to look and see what's up, then no, they don't have to sign in.
Okay.
This will probably take a second to load. It's an intensive data set. There's a lot of detail to it, so it's working on it right now. And we have the one, when we add these to the database, and we have them set up to display a certain way using different definition files. So when you're seeing it displayed here, it's the way we decided to display it. If you download the data set, you would have the ability to display it differently to maybe suit your needs in your mapping. So that's one thing to think about as well. It's working on it. I can see in the table of contents now.
And when you, is there an ability to sort of like clip the data and only download what, I imagine these files are like massive. Is there an ability to just download sort of certain sections, or is it sort of all or nothing?
If there was if in that case that's what you wanted to do, we don't have a functionality to do that right now, but if it was a really large data set that you didn't want to download, you could contact me, I could clip it and then send it to you.
Okay.
So we don't have an automated process for that right now, but you can see now the irreplaceability is in here now. I zoomed and it's now reloading. So you can see how it was easy to just load that, but now I've zoomed and now it's refreshing. But so so you could do that with any data set that is in database. And then you can also, if you are a signed-in user, you can also upload your own data into database, and then if you want to incorporate it into the AppLCC Conservation Planning Atlas, you can email me and I'll just add it to the Conservation Planning Atlas. So users can upload their own data, but if they want to add it, only the gallery owner can actually add it to a gallery. So if they would just notify me, I could do that.
Okay. And so, like in that case, if our watershed boundary was up there, we could overlay that and just sort of see where our particular area falls within all of this.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you caught what I was doing. When you add the data layer, it put irreplaceability at the top. All I did, so it was showing over all the other layers. So I you just left click and drag it. You can also, I believe you can also change you can also set the transparency. So there's still some different ways you can edit the symbology a little bit that once it's already in database. And there are some certain things you can do to tweak how the map appears and how the data is displayed. Like I said, if you download the data layers in your own system, you can do all kinds of stuff.
And so eventually when sort of the phase 2 information that goes down to kind of the species information, that would be kind of on here, this system as well? Is that the intent?
The intent, yeah, all the geospatial data from a research product, the intent is that it will also be housed in databases. Some of the more interactive maps, we may have developed some story maps as well, but those will be embedded in the AppLCC portal. If it's more complex operations like an identifier or something like that. But the goal is to have a lot of the raw data visualized within databases.
Okay.
Did you have any, Gillian, did you have any other questions on databasing, or is there any other things you wanted to mention?
No, I think this is great. I kind of wish I knew about databasing before I started here, but
database is really cool. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's really, really nice to use. So you can just go around, mess with that. And the web address, if you just type in applcc.databasin.org, it's going to take you into it. And just know there's more data layers we're going to be adding. And Kelly, if you go in there, and you've already mentioned your watershed boundaries, if there's any other data layers you would like to see added to the Conservation Planning Atlas that you think might be of interest to your organization or any of your partners, let us know, and we would do our best to get them in there.
Okay. Cool.
So let's see, what's to go? So you had mentioned that about the LCD, and we showed you a little bit about the data layers. Do you have a preference? Would you like to see the riparian tool, energy tool, or maybe some of the online learning training that we've set up or anything?
I'd be interested in understanding the riparian and the energy tools for sure.
Okay, let's go. I'll go into the riparian tool real quick. I'm just in the projects that have been funded. It has a link right here. The Riparian Restoration Decision Support Tool. So when you first click on that, you're going to come back. And this is really a very similar framework for all of the projects. Go ahead and get this real quick. You have some basic information about the project, a little bit of background, a nice summary to kind of acclimate yourself to the project. There's a link to the actual tool itself. There's also a link to the report. And this is not a very scientific report. It's actually really short and is it's easy for folks to understand. So that one is not, that one's actually a nice one to review if you have more in-depth questions about the tool. We also have a little tutorial link here, and that's just, like screenshots, really quick stuff for people to actually go in and use it. It doesn't necessarily go into the background, any of the science behind it. It just tells you how to use it. There's also a webinar that I recorded. It might be almost a year and a half ago, but it's still applicable. It kind of talks about the tool, and it does scientific background. It walks you through how to use it, and it also provides some case study examples on applicability of the tool for real-world questions, like how to use the tool to answer a conservation question. So just provide some examples, really to get kind of people thinking about different ways the tool could be used. So you can go in there, you can look at all that. The quick links here, these are kind of nice a lot of the information is embedded in the body, but these are really easy links if you have a specific question. So the tool is linked here, the report itself. You also have a fact sheet, because we had discussed that we don't have one for the LCD. We do have a fact sheet for the riparian tool. We have just some general information about, some of the stuff that's contained in one of the appendices. Then there's also other background materials. But what we really want to look at is the actual tool itself. And it brought me back to that. Sorry. And it's a little intimidating when you first open it because there's a lot of data layers over here to the left. We don't have to, those are nice to have, but this was created by, in conjunction with the University of Massachusetts. So they put a lot of other information in this tool that the riparian tool doesn't necessarily use, but it's nice to have. That way you can look at your output overlaid on some of these other features.
Okay. So what's the little thing that looks like a sunshine?
This?
No, like if you're looking at the legends, there's like a little sunshine and then maybe like a search bar or something?
That's for this is also a transparency, right?
Oh, okay. Oh,
so
okay.
This is transparency. This will actually zoom you to that layer.
Okay.
And then this is, this box here is just to turn the layer on and off. So and if you expand the plus sign, that just gives you the legend.
Okay.
So the first, and the yellow outline here you see in the main part of the map, that is the extent of the tool. Like this is the Eastern Brook Trout Joint Venture boundary, and so that would be the extent of, you know, where the tool runs its analysis. So within this area here.
So the riparian tool is in that whole area, not just the AppLCC area.
Well, this
okay.
is, yeah, so the riparian tool will go through this whole Eastern Brook Trout Joint Venture area. So it doesn't do the entire AppLCC, but you can see the area that it does do.
Okay.
And so I'll walk you through, I'll show you a little bit of the pieces, and then I'll actually walk you through real quick how to use it, because it's really quick and it's really easy. And like I said, once you come in here, it's a little intimidating at first because you have to try and figure all that out. These are just, I kind of went over the different features of the legend. These are just, this is your toolbar up here at the top. These are your Zoom tools. So those pretty much work the same as you see in any of the ArcGIS software, any of the other web maps. This is your pan. This will zoom to your current location. So these are just more zoom tools. And so you can also zoom to a specific location. You can search by coordinates or address. So that's kind of nice if you already know exactly where you want to go. These are just your previous and next extent. There's an identify feature, so if you have a layer on, you activate this, click on the map, and it'll tell you what the layer is. So, and also, so it'll select a layer bit, and so this is the select layer, and it's only going to make you enable you to select a layer that you currently have activated in the legend, and that's going to be that's going to be important when we actually run the tool. And so this is a select feature, so if you activate this, well, this is identify, and then this is select. So this will identify the layer, and then this will select the layer. And then this will, if you have some layers selected, you can click the clear select, and it'll clear it. And so that'll be, that will be important when you're running the tool. A nice thing here is you can actually download any of these data layers that you see.
Oh, okay. Great.
So you can download layers. You can, I mean, depending on how much you have on, you can download all visible, or you can download each of these individually.
Okay. So so if you make a map and you have like 3 or 4 of these layers turned on, and you say all visible layers, it just does everything that you have turned on, not the stuff you don't have turned on. Okay.
Correct.
Cool.
So you can see all these different layers that you can download. You can choose your file type. And typically, raster, you're typically going to download GeoTIFF. And another thing, you'll see this little box here, restrict download to map extent. If you're zoomed in, like, to the Kakapen watershed, you could, in this tool, you can restrict it to that extent.
Cool.
So that is something that, might be useful for you. This is the link for the riparian tool. There's a couple steps we'll go through beforehand before we actually click that. This is a calculate drainage area tool, which isn't required for the riparian tool, but it's still kind of a neat thing that you can
What is that? What does that do?
It will calculate your drainage area of a point where you select a point. It can calculate. It's like a 4-point analysis. So if a location on the map, it'll tell you how big the drainage area is to that point.
Okay.
That's just not necessarily tied into the riparian tool, but it's kind of a nice thing for if you're doing riparian work to know how big your watershed is.
Yeah. Interesting.
So that's kind of a neat little tool that they included. This is another download tool that it downloads specifically the Eastern Brook Trout Layers geodatabase. This may or may not be of interest, but you also can download those here through the download layer.
So what would the difference between that, using that or using the other, just downloading the layer? Is there a difference?
No, it just well, this is going to download a geodatabase, and this is downloading GeoTIFF typically. So it'll be in a different format, but it's going to represent the same information. And this would be if you wanted all of the geodatabase. You may not. You may just want this this is just the eastern brook trout stuff. So you can see the classified catchment, the boundary, stuff like that, and their priority watershed. So it's not going to be all of the information you see here in the legend.
Okay.
And then you can download documentation associated with the Eastern Brook Trout Joint Venture Assessment. So that'll give you more information about the data layer specifically associated with that assessment.
Okay.
So we've kind of given you the real fast overview of the different features of the tool. Now I want to show you real quick how to actually run it. So the first step is you need to decide at what scale do you want to run the analysis. So typically, as an example, I will use like a Huck 10 or Huck 12 because those are the smaller watersheds. It runs a little faster when you do that. It's going to run fast anyway, but say we want to run on a Huck 10 watershed. So you see when you do that, it starts drawing all of these layers. So I'm not actually sure. I'm going to zoom in here and let it redraw. You can see it's only drawing those ones that intersect with the Eastern Brook Trout Joint Venture boundary. So you can see that over here in Ohio, you're not able to click on those because the tool won't run in those areas.
Okay.
And that's just a side note. So let's see. So if we click right here, and see, I did that. I clicked, and it selected the entire state of West Virginia, because I forgot, so I'm going to clear the selected area, to select the layer. So it's good that so if you turn the layer on and you don't enable the selection, then that's why.
Okay.
So we'll go, so I did that and not even thinking. So let's select feature information. So that's giving me the information. Because so that's the difference between the identify and the select feature. So I identified it, but now I want to actually select it, and I'll click there again. And you can see it's going to highlight it in that light blue. So this is the Huck 10 we've selected that we want to run our analysis on. You can select more than one at a time if desired by just, you left click and then drag.
Okay.
And it's going to select all the ones that I, did that drag over. But for example purposes, we'll just select the one. The next step, okay, so we've turned our layer on. We've activated in the select layer drop-down menu, and now we've actually done the process of selecting it. Next, we go to the tree icon. I mentioned that was where the riparian tool was. Just select it. In the input specifications, it's very simple. This tool, what it does is it is based off of the National Hydrologic Data Set High Resolution Streams Layer. It looks within a 100-meter buffer of that stream center line. So you're going to have a total of 200 meters of width. And it's going to look at, it takes into account percent canopy cover, solar gain percentile, and that's just a measure of how much sun is hitting that area. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much the stream can be heated and how much temperature could be affected. And so those are required, so you have to put in input for those. It automatically puts the defaults, and you may or may not want to change those. You also have two optional parameters. Those are elevation and percent impervious surface. So if the box is checked, what the tool is going to do, it's only going to select the raster cells, and it does it at a 30-meter by 30-meter resolution. So it will select all of those areas that have an elevation greater than or equal to 600 meters, and impervious surface is going to select it if it also has less than or equal to 10% impervious surface, the way the default is set up. And the same goes for this percent canopy cover and solar gain percentile. So it has to meet all of the criteria to be selected. It doesn't.
So what is how do you, I understand how to estimate what you're looking for canopy cover and impervious surface and elevation, but how do you come up with that number for solar gain percentile?
That one's a little more, yeah, that one is a little more complicated. Typically for solar gain percentile, I will go with the default, but there is a report that was done and they presented it at Big Esri conference about what that number really means. And that one's a little harder to necessarily explain, but there is information. But typically for that, I will go with the default.
So 75?
Yeah, 75, 70 or 75, yeah.
And so is 75 like what you want, or is that higher or lower than you want it to be if you're looking for a healthy something, you know, stream buffer?
See, that's the thing. This is selecting the areas that likely need restoration. They need a riparian buffer planted. So.
Oh, okay. So this is where it's bad.
Yes. So that's what the defaults are doing.
Okay.
So you can see it's only selecting areas with less than or equal to 70% canopy cover. It's saying, hey, these areas need riparian vegetation to make the stream more resilient to temperature increases. Because if we shade the stream, even if, so they've done studies that said if you shade like 800 meters of stream, it can help decrease the stream temperature by 2 degrees Celsius for a significant, for like 2 miles or something like that. So it's really wanting to find those segments of the riparian corridor that if they were to get more vegetation could help alleviate some of the impacts associated with rising temperatures.
Okay.
By simply creating vegetation. So that's what this tool is really doing.
Okay, that makes sense.
On the flip side, if you wanted to use this tool to find more pristine areas, you could simply change these parameters. You could have decrease the solar gain, and if you did that and you kind of flipped it, if you put, say, I only want to, so you could do that and you could kind of flip the response so you could better be able to identify areas that you wanted to protect, not necessarily restore. It was intended and developed to identify restoration, but with many tools, you can use it differently by making a few adjustments.
Yeah, okay, cool.
This is one way to think about it. So for this example, just because I'm kind of showing you how to use it, I'm just going to keep the default unless you want to do anything different. And restrict extent by selected feature. You want to do that, otherwise it's going to run it on everything and it might take a while. So we're going to, I mean, this is simple. We've checked all these boxes. We've made sure it suits our needs. And you just click perform analysis and it gives you, you see the status window. And it's going to be pretty quick. It's almost done. Okay, so it did it. So you can see based on the parameters we use, I'm going to zoom in real quick. The light blue is all the riparian corridor that was evaluated. So like I said, it only does that 100-meter buffer on the stream center line. So there's only a swath of 200 meters here. The light blue is everything that did not meet all of that criteria. The dark blue is everything that did meet your criteria. And then it also... Okay,
wait. Say that again. The dark blue are the areas where the restoration is needed, and then the light blue that are better than those other areas. Okay.
Yeah. The dark blue met all the criteria you established.
Okay.
And then you also, as soon as it runs the analysis, your data layer is now here at the bottom of the legend. So now that you've run the analysis, you can turn the layer on and off on the map. I'm actually going to clear my selection so we don't have to look at that overlay. It's a little easier to see this. So now, as I mentioned, now that this data layer is here, if you want to export this and put this in GIS to do additional analysis, you can do that because you can't add additional data layers to this tool. So that's the caveat. That's a big difference between this and databases. So now you have this data layer, so we could simply go down here, and you scroll to the bottom, we can download a geotip of your analysis. And so it'll export the entire analysis for that watershed, and you can incorporate that with other data layers you might use. And that we talk about that in the webinar and some of the training about examples of using that output with other data layers on your local GIS system and how that can work and kind of get ideas rolling.
So geotip, that's the file type you would generally select.
Yeah,
Are there other?
Yeah, I would generally use a geotip.
Okay.
So that's just the basic idea behind the riparian tool. I do want to show you. I'm just going to show you the online course I developed for using the riparian tool. So you could go in. You don't have to take the whole course. It's really quick. You can also use it. I have exercises that I developed on teaching how to use the tool for people, and it's basically what I just showed you, but there's also a PDF that you could print out and refer to. And then I mentioned there's some case study exercises you can use too. Let me log in here and I'll show you that real quick, because then that's nice that you can print this information out and you don't have to. I showed it to you, but it's easy. You go, you get busy doing other stuff and you forget, but you can refer back to this site to refresh your memory even on top of some of the other things.
So to get here on the main apps page, you look for something related to online learning?
We're redoing the website to feature this. This is another thing that is something we just recently finished as well. So this is another one of our up-and-coming things. So it's probably easiest right now just to go to this website, www.scienceapplications.org, and to access it that way, because it's not all linked on the portal yet. Rose, our contractor who does a lot of our really more specific portal stuff, and Matt Simita, our communications guy, are working to get this featured on the portal, and I can show you where it would go then.
Okay.
So this is the course itself. So it's all in this. You scroll down, like I said, it gives you the introduction about the tool, what it is, and this is all really brief and explains how the course is going to work. You keep scrolling. There's some information here. I linked the report and the fact sheet. Then the Module 1 explains the science behind the tool. And so this is a brief video. It's embedded, so you can just watch that. And it goes over the different base layers. Like I quickly mentioned, the 4 data layers that are included in the tool analysis. And then we have a little review session here, and this really gives you the important points to convey that we wanted to make sure people understood. There are links to other information here, and this is links to the report and the fact sheet again, kind of duplicating that to make sure if someone's looking for that, it's really easy to find. There is a module here. This is the how-to module. So what this includes is a link to a video that goes over a lot of the stuff I just showed you, but this is a video you can go back to anytime and watch. Then there is also an activity, which this is the instruction. After you watch your instructional video, you can go through these activities. So if you click on this, this is really just a PDF that walks you through. It gives you information on how to do it. So when this loads, I'll kind of show you so you get an idea of what I was talking about. And we approach this from, we have a manager and a technical perspective on this. The manager sticks to simply understanding how the tool works within the tool environment. The technical level takes it one step further and explains how to use the tool in the tool environment, much like the manager, but then how to bring it into an ArcGIS platform.
Okay.
So it takes it one step further. So it depending on your audience. So this is kind of what we talked about a little bit with the fact sheets earlier. Depending on your audience, you might have a different fact sheet. So this is the approach we took here. So you can see it walks you through with screenshots exactly how to use the tool and how to walk through this example. So this is a nice reference that you can print out too, that you wouldn't have to watch the video. So that's all this is. So it walks you through that example, and you can see there's just how to do it, how to download, what these different icons mean. So that's a handy reference, and that I showed you the manager one. There's also a how-to activity for the technical level. And then once again, we have the review session as well. We also have this module 3. This is identifies some different case study examples on ways that you could potentially use the output from the tool. And so this is just a short video where I walk through examples like one, which looks at, you can see from the screenshot, permitted water withdrawals, how permitted water withdrawals overlay with what criteria met that you established using the riparian tool, because you could have a really nice buffer area here. You can see that a lot of it is dark blue, but there's also a lot of permitted water withdrawals. So even though it met your riparian corridor criteria, your vegetation criteria, it may actually have a lot of water withdrawals which affect the flow and therefore affect the habitat suitability. And that may be a way to eliminate, even though it met some criteria, it may have impacts unrelated that then make it unsuitable. So it just talks about ways to use different data layers in combination to really even further refine the output. Because this is, the tool doesn't say do restoration here, it's a decision support tool to help you decide in conjunction with other data layers where to do your restoration and or protection. So you have that, and then you also have the next module is an activity associated with the case study. So I give folks an example of a question. I pose a question, and then they walk through an example of how to answer it. So I'll open one of those. And it's going to look very similar to the how-to activity, but you'll see here there's a question. So for this one, where are the highest priority riparian corridors in a watershed, which would provide the most efficient way of increasing aquatic activity and resiliency for species from climate change. So this really looks at identifying for cold water dependent species, some of the trout species. And we had originally developed this for a workshop in Pennsylvania. So this example walks through an area in Pennsylvania, and you can see it incorporates the additional data layers. It used the analysis that you ran. It also looked at it for the Eastern Brook Trout joint venture priority areas. It looked at streams that have natural reproduction and then stream classification. So we looked at the output, then you selected only cold water streams using the stream classification there. And then you looked at cold water streams with natural trout reproduction, and then you compared so if it met all of those, we looked at how it was reflected in the different priority areas established by the Eastern Brook Trout joint venture. So it's just a way to further narrow down and prioritize output from the riparian tool. And so this just kind of, and then I give you a potential solution. Know that there are multiple ways that you could go about this. So I asked the question, say the data layers that were used, and then we walk through different ways to do this. And all of these data layers are available in the database and platform that I showed you earlier. We also have a gallery for the data resources that are used for this training module. So those are all of the examples of everything that I go through in these exercises are in databases.
So you would, in order to do the exercise, you would download all the data and then do the things, or you would do it in the tool?
Well, to start it, it walks you, the how-to, you're just going to use the tool, and then it shows you how to export it. And so the modules build on each other. So then for Module 3, it tells you, so for the potential solution, you start with open the RPCCR and run the analysis. And then you can use that data that you ran, or you can use from the example that I ran. But you have a link to I have links to the data available within the instructions as well.
Oh, okay. Cool.
that's this kind of, and we have other courses, but the riparian one is the developed one at this time. The Energy Forecast 901 is nearly complete, but you still have some, you can still go through the how-to and stuff for it as well. But it's not.
So how much time, like if somebody were to sort of do this, all these modules, is there an estimated sort of number of hours it would take to kind of get through all this, or?
I would say it somewhat depends on their level of experience with the GIS, but if they're doing, like, say they're doing the manager's version of it where they're just using it within the environment of the tool, and then as far as the case study example, that is a map that's in database, and so they're not doing a lot of the announcements themselves. I'd say like 2 hours.
Okay.
But potentially the technical could take longer. When we do the presentations and we walk everyone through it in person, we usually allot for a half a day. You could potentially do it in 2 to 4 hours. It just depends. But if someone, I haven't had someone come back to me, walk through the whole thing at once and tell me how long it took. So if someone did that, it would really be great to have feedback, because we also have an assessment quiz. I mean, it's not a hard quiz. It's just a way to kind of gauge and highlight the important points. It's like 9 or 10 questions. And then almost more importantly is the participant feedback, where we're asking folks what worked well, what didn't work well, were the videos good, you know, to get feedback. And if we need to make revisions, we would make revisions based on this feedback.
Okay. Do you ask them how long it took them approximately?
No, we did not. But
you should
that would have been an important question to add.
Because I think, yeah, like understanding sort of what you're committing to is important. Like, all right, I'll do this. Is it going to take like months or hours or minutes?
No, I would say 2 to 4 hours. And you don't have to do it all in one sitting either.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know, Gillian, had you been exposed to any of the online courses before?
I haven't tried any yet, so.
Okay. So that's really the riparian, and then we have some of these decision support. I also have the energy forecast modeling one that is almost developed. We have more in the works. We're going to have one for using databases, and Gillian's going to create one for our ecosystem services and benefits, and I'll, of course, be available to help her with that. But we're going to base them off a very similar framework that I just showed you. Like, we have an intro, science behind the tool, how to, and then we kind of based it on the philosophy of present the new information, let users do the information, and then review the information to really, as a way to really try and get what we presented was to really stick with folks and for them to remember the important points that we're trying to get across.
Great. So what's the expected timeline for that, Jillian? Do you have one?
She just saw it today.
Yeah, Jessica and I are going to meet next week about it and try to get rolling, but there's just kind of a few priorities on my plate right now, so I don't have a timeline for you, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Like a year or 2 years, 5 years?
Oh.
I'd say within 6 months, hopefully.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And not like a really long timeline, because our contractor who did a lot of, really started up the portal site and does more of the really technical stuff, they're going to be working on the database and component. And I think that's one Jean would like to see the database in one by mid-October. I'm not sure if it'll actually be done by then, but we may have a database in course by that point.
Oh, okay.
That's the plan anyway.
Great.
Trying to think. So did you, and then I'll show you, I still have this open, so I'll show you real quick where the data is associated with that. The all-time gallery. And so there is a gallery, this riparian prioritization for climate change resilience. So all the data that is used in that course is in here. So these are all the data layers. So some of these, this was a Pennsylvania-centric one, so this data layers are all for Pennsylvania through that course. But even if you're not in Pennsylvania, you could use this to kind of introduce yourself to it. Is the data. So that those are all available. So did you? I've kind of thrown a lot at you. Do you want to see the energy forecast model? Is there something else you want to see? I don't know. I know we had said an hour and a half. I mean, I can stay on a little longer, but I really want to make sure we cover everything you had questions on, and I don't want to completely overwhelm you as well.
Yeah, no, this is perfect because, I mean, up to this point, it's been a lot of, yeah, the tools, but, like, really I had no idea, like, what these tools did or were supposed to do or whatever. So this is, like, really helpful, and then I think when I can block some time off and, like, play with them a little bit, I might, you know, kind of come back with some additional questions and things. But I think, yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing here seems like it would be, you know, useful for us, for sure. I mean, I could go a little bit over 11:30, but I kind of have a overbooked day today. But I would be interested in understanding the energy forecast model a little bit as well.
I would say, at a minimum, I will show you that real quick, at least, so you can kind of go in and look at it, and at least. Yeah. So like I said, you see the same almost identical framework as you saw when we went into the riparian tool, the riparian project. So we're going to go to products and tools. And so, I mean, you can go in, you're going to go in and investigate. I won't go over all the other information. We're going to go straight to the tool. And so this is on yet a slightly different platform, but it's going to really look very similar to a lot of your web map applications. So similar to the riparian tool, you won't be able to add additional data layers directly into this platform, but there is the ability to download the data layers that are used here. So really quick, you see the red you see here, this does cover the entire AppLCC. So you have some resources over here, and under here you just have the Appalachian Trail and the study area. So that's what's within this first category of data. You also have this energy data. This is the output from the assessment. So you have a wind model, a shale model, and a coal model. So what these do, these are going to look at, like, you have a layer, wind development greater than 90%, you just turn that on and you can see where the wind development probability is greater than 90%. So that's based on, the 90% probability is based on the fact that there's, like, sufficient wind resources in these areas to make it economically viable. Yeah, there are different, and the criteria for evaluating the different models, like the wind, the shale gas. So you have Utica and other shale gas developments. That is the specific information for those models, and it gets pretty technical as far as the statistics associated with those different models. That is in the report that is on the page. If you're back to that first page I went to for the energy forecast model, you can download that report and really get into the details of how those models were developed. You can see this shows you on a range. So you can see on a range where the highest risk areas are in red, the lower risk is in blue. So you can see that for each of these.
Okay, so one was wind development greater than 90%, and then the other one is like that remaining, like
this
everything else?
Yeah, no, well, no, they're two separate layers. So this is everything. So the first one I showed you was, it's showing you everything over 90% probability. The next one that I have highlight on now is showing you everything between 0 to almost 100% probability.
Oh,
so
okay.
You can see the range.
Okay.
Because you might, 90% might be a good threshold, but you might also want to look at stuff that has an 80% probability, and you can do that with the other range.
Okay.
And so you have that for shale and as well as coal. So that's the straight up data output from the analysis. They've also done, I mentioned a little bit like some of the case study incorporating different data layers. They have done some of that for you under these energy impact analysis layers. You can look at it by forest cores, so you can look at the wind energy development risk to forest cores, and you can look, they categorize it by no risk, low risk, some, and highest risk. So you can, and this is just looking at the risk within forested cores. So it's not looking at everything, it's just looking at those forested areas. So you can do that for each of those different models. So you have it for wind, shale gas, surface coal mining. That what's nice here is you can also look at the energy sources combined. So this one will look at if it had no risk, so if they were all the models had no risk, it'll show up as no risk. A low risk from one or more sources, some risk from one or more sources, and then highest risk. So it'll look, you're able to look at it as a compiled energy risk, or you can look at it, that's one way. And then it just gives you from at least one, but you can also look at the statistical combined risk, so you can look at that as well. So there's just several different ways that you can look at the data, and you can also do that on a watershed-based scale. So you could look at your watershed, zoom into it, and see what its overall risk level was. So the initial layers I showed you, and the one you're still seeing on that shows you on a gridded like 30-meter resolution, but the watershed will show you the overall risk associated with the watershed by combining all of those individual areas. So that's just one other way. So those are some of another thing. I'm trying to show you some of this stuff quick. Is that there's some analysis that they did relating to surface impacts, importance to drinking water, and then so it shows you the risk of these areas and these important areas that were done. So that's just that would be if an area is at high risk for energy development and is important to drinking water, it would be what color, the light or the dark? If it's important, I'm going to turn some of these off. I'm going to turn this layer off real quick. One thing, if you have a layer above it open, you can only see one layer within this group at a time, so you might have to toggle layers on and off. So you can see that this is the importance to drinking water. It's highlighting those with, this 75 to 100% risk for those watershed. So this, at highest energy development risk and their level of importance for drinking water. So it's like several different layers of consideration.
So would the higher number be the more significant risk, or the lower number be more significant?
The higher number is the more significant risk.
Okay. Okay. And so what's the idea with this? To, like, put things in place so that energy can't come through these areas, or to use this to plan around not trying to do things in areas where energy is going to come through?
It's more of the second. So what it really is, we want people to be aware of the areas that have a higher potential risk And so, and areas that have the high risk that are also important to resources, so that when it can be used when working with even the actual energy companies when they're planning new developments to help them avoid those areas. It can also be used for a conservation organization. If you know an area is at high risk, that might be a high priority for you to do protection. So,
okay.
But it's more of a planning thing. It's not to stop anything from happening. It's more of a planning tool to help you and your organization be aware of, this area has a high risk. I need to think about that when I'm making plans or coordinating with these companies and help developing, an alternatives analysis, stuff like that.
Okay.
And like I mentioned, this data is also, there's a data request. This is a super quick thing like this. This is instant, and you're not going to get any junk mail or emails. It asks you your name, affiliation, your email. And that's just to kind of get an idea of who is downloading the data. Once you fill that in and click Submit Request, you'll have another window pops up instantly where you can download zipped files of the data. From the
that's where you pick which ones you want and don't want and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
and how detailed is it? I mean, like if I drill down into sort of our, say, watershed scale, is it going to be at a, at a level that's useful, sort of?
Well, it's at 30, the raster stuff is at 30-meter resolution.
30-meter, okay.
Yeah. So because to do a large landscape level at a smaller resolution is pretty technically intensive as far as like the equipment you need to use. So it is that. And so you can see the different categories. So not every single data layer you see in that on the left-hand side is available for download. You have the forest cores are all available, so you download this and it downloads the forest cores and their associated risks. So you get an attribute table and you kind of have to go through, you have to look in the attribute table because there's a lot of information there and decide how you want to display the data. So you could potentially display it differently than what is displayed here in the mapper. There's just a lot you can do. And so you can also do the watershed layer and then the individual wind, shale, gas, and coal models that you can download. So all the data is available that you can then pull it into your own system and use it in conjunction with other data.
Cool.
And then, we'll have the energy forecast model course I'm working on will walk you through that. I don't necessarily go into detail on how to display the data. I do give an example in the how-to section on which attribute column we're interested in. So if there's different ones, it would be handy then to refer back to the report to figure out what all the columns mean. But some of them self-explanatory, but there is a lot of data. Once you download the zip file, there is a lot of data in there.
Cool. I think that would be really interesting to do a series of maps looking at that in our watershed to just get an understanding of the threats.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great idea, and then you can look at it at different levels of threat too to see, and then you could prioritize certain areas, as highest risk based on different things. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Wow, you guys have done a lot of cool stuff. I hope that lots of people are going to use it and know about it because it looks, it's really interesting and it's, you can tell a lot of work has gone into this.
Definitely, yeah. And we're trying to continually develop, because we developed a lot of these tools were developed. Now a lot of my focus was oriented toward outreach and communication of these tools and getting other folks to use them. So that's kind of like the phase we're in now, reaching out to you and then you you understand the tools and then potentially you tell other people, but that's kind of the phase we're in. So we're really trying to focus on how to make these user-friendly and provide resources that makes it easy to learn them.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I can see a lot of opportunities to sort of give like presentations on these things. I mean, I think that that's where you're going to get you know, most people's interest peaked into kind of checking out the website and you know, kind of doing the online interactive thing. When, you know, someone can come and give them a presentation and sort of show them the possibility or how it could be, you know, useful to them. And I mean, at least within sort of the land trust, you know, watershed organization type of world, I mean, there's a number of kind of venues, like the one that's coming up in like a couple weeks, which Jean and I are doing, where, you know, and I'm assuming that that's kind of what Jean is planning for her presentation. I mean, basically, we have an hour-and-a-half session, and I'm assuming Jean's going to take up most of that, and I'm going to be like, you know, 10 or 15 minutes, like, yeah, we're going to work with them to try to figure out, you know, apply it to our stuff, and then I'll, you know, show some maps about, you know, of our watershed with this information and how we can, you know, look at it. That's what I'm assuming, though I haven't talked to Jean about this. But, I mean, things like that, I see a lot of opportunities to kind of present this information to sort of groups like mine. So, yeah.
Okay.
Now I guess you just have to have the time to go and give the presentations, but.
We've got Jillian now.
And is that going to be kind of your role, Jillian? Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, I think so. I am going to spend the majority of my time working with partners in the Tennessee River Basin. But that's kind of my whole role with science delivery, to make sure that I can get the tools out to folks on the ground and then hear from folks on the ground what they need and bring that back to kind of the researchers, the people designing the tools. But yeah, so I hope that I can help kind of distribute and help people become aware of these tools, because I've been in conservation planning out west for 5 years, and I always was, oh, that exists? Oh, I wish I knew about that. So I'm excited to try to make sure that there's communication to folks about these tools and have it be kind of a two-way transfer of knowledge on them. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm always like that, because I'm like, God, there's all these things out there, and I don't have time to figure out what they are and which one, you know, works for me. And, you know, the ones that I would gravitate towards would be either ones that I've, like, seen a presentation on and I have, like, a real idea of, like, how it could be useful to me personally, and if I, you know, should invest my time in it, or ones where, you know, other kind of similar organizations to my organizations are sort of using it in a way that's been valuable to them, and it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's worth my time. But there's so many different things out there that it's really hard to, like, even find the time to figure out if it's something that's going to be valuable to you or not. And so I guess I would just sort of stress that it's a lot of, like, legwork and it's a lot of, like, presentations and things, but I think getting out in front of people and, like, force-feeding it to them a little bit is going to be, like, so key, and sparking enough interest for people to actually go and do the online modules. Because I don't think anyone's going to, well, not anyone, but I think most people are going to need a little more incentive to, like, go online and, like, do a whole course on, or what's, you know, in their mind is a whole course on something to figure out if it's going to even be valuable to them, if that makes sense.
I agree with you. I think that's a very good point to make.
But once that happens on the ground and there's, like, synergy around it, I think, you know, it'll build. But I think that that's going to be really key, which is a lot of work.
For sure.
A lot of travel.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I think if, like, everyone just admits it. like, it's like, look, this is just what we need to do, you know? Because it would be a shame if, like, these things don't get used because they're really cool.
Well, that's exciting to hear from you. So that's neat. The excitement from, like, somebody who's in the land trust community to be like, wow, this is awesome. It can help us with funding and strategy and.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Well, cool. Well, I'm going to take some time. I now feel like I will get enough out of it that it's worth me carving out the time and investing in going into some of these online tools, which obviously you're not going to do this one-on-one with everyone, so I appreciate you taking the time to do it with me. And then once I delve into it, I'm sure I will come back with lots of maybe questions and things about technical assistance as I try to put together some information for this presentation Jean and I have to give in the next, on the 30th. So thanks in advance for helping me out with some of this stuff. But I think if we can sort of, you know, plant the seed with some folks, it'll start, you know, generating some buzz. And it's, you know, I guess I didn't really realize that all of this stuff is just now coming online. So I'm super excited to be kind of involved, like, right as, you know, all this stuff is kind of being finished and starting to be delivered and things like that, because that's pretty cool. I guess I just assumed it was all done and out there, and, you know, I just didn't know about it.
No, a lot of it is we're really, the energy forecast model and the riparian tool have been done a little longer, but all these products, like the training and all that, that's all new, and the database and platform, that's all new for us. So, like I said, like, so we're just now getting into that outreach and communication phase, and so we've done a little bit, but we really haven't went full steam with it yet. So we're kind of really still ramping up our efforts.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm excited to be in on the ground floor of this because it's pretty cool.
Well, that's great.
All right. Well, I better run. I've got to get somewhere before 2, and I have to do some stuff first. But thank you. And Jessica, I will send you our, you know, watershed boundary, which is, I mean, it's basically just the boundary of the Kakapen. So you probably have something similar, but I'll send you what I use. And if it's possible to sort of get it on the platform in a way that I could, like, use it and make some maps directly off of the database, then that would be awesome, and that would be something I could use for this presentation to sort of show the possibilities.
Yeah, it's definitely something we could do.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm going to hang out. You guys probably have more to talk about. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Holy moly.
Okay, is your head spinning, or are you?
Yeah, the last one that you did, the TNC stuff, I'm kind of like, I was trying really hard to concentrate.
That one is probably gonna. I struggled more understanding that one as much because that one it really does help to go in and read that report. Not all of it, but at least to get an understanding, because I was just showing you how to use this tool, and I didn't, like, for this, I didn't really talk about a lot of the background. And to be quite honest, the report, as far as running the models, gets pretty technical, and I'm not a statistician, nor do I want to be.
Yeah.
So that's the caveat. But you don't have to understand all of that to understand the process. And there are the videos that are linked on the research product pages. Those are really helpful to watch.
Okay.
Even though Jean's not crazy about all of them, they are really helpful to watch in the sense that it will at least get you oriented. You might still have to do a lot of research and spend some time thinking about it.
Okay.
And I also have presentations that I've developed, PowerPoint presentations. I told you I would send those to you, so I can send you some of the information I developed for the Pennsylvania stuff so you can see how I presented this, because it's kind of, it'd be very similar to what you'll be tasked with, I guess, for, I don't know, I guess Tennessee and Alabama.
Yeah.
So you could, and once you go in, and what's nice is you're going to go in and learn the tools, and there might be things that I didn't show people that you, fresh to the tools, might want to show. You know what I mean? You might approach it a little differently because it's still, it's new to you now, and as you're thinking about it, there might be different ways that you want to present, and that's fine too. So there's all kinds of, but the basic structure we followed was we'd present. This was, Gina and I took a Train the Trainer course up at NCTC, at Fish and Wildlife National Training Center. Yeah. And their big thing was new, do, review. And so you'd explain the information, get them to do it, and then review it. So when we were doing presentations, we tried not to blab on like I did today for like an hour and a half. Okay. And we give them one piece, get them to do it, review it. Give them another piece, get them to do it. You know, so it's not so hard to pay attention.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of the premise, and you'll see that within the framework for the riparian tool. Like I gave them an overview, had them watch a video, had them do an exercise, and then reviewed. So you'll see that premise. So that's just like a general framework to follow. Just try, and so like when we did the training, we tried to break it up, and sometimes you do have to talk for half an hour to an hour, but then we would give a break and then kind of have them actually do an activity. However, for the one in November, I don't know if you saw the note, they do not have Wi-Fi at the refuge. Yeah. So you'll have to approach it slightly differently. Okay. In the sense that instead of having them do the exercise, you'll probably have to walk through, but you'd be getting like, have them like to be interactive with it. I mean, ask them, okay, what data layers, and kind of quiz them as you're going along. That's my one way to deal with it. There might be other ways that you think of, but because in the past we've had everyone bring their laptop and actually walk through it, but that's not going to be feasible for this, so you'll just have to alter it a little bit, but you could still use the same material, and then you could also focus on, like I said, the stuff examples I give are Pennsylvania examples, but we probably want to, and I can work with you in developing material that's specific to the state you're going to be in.
Okay.
So we might involve changing some screenshots. And for the presentation, like when you're doing the PowerPoint part of it, it might not matter. But, you know, as far as when you're doing the how-to activities, that might be a good thing to do.
No, I think it'll be good. I think I'll take some time and play around with the tools. I think I'll go and do that module on the, was it scienceapplications.org?
Yeah, the riparian course. And I think... Yeah. And the energy forecast model, I got to refresh my memory on what I haven't done on that. I think that is predominantly done. I'm going to look at it real quick and tell you what's not done on it. Energy forecast model. That has, I'm trying. Okay, up to Module 4 is complete, so the actual hands-on case study isn't complete, but up to Module 3 is complete where I present examples. I just don't walk anybody through I don't have them do the activity. So that one still might, as far as going through the first 3 modules of that course, might be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I think I'll do for the tools. I think I will just work on pretending I'm like a conservation planner at a land trust or a state agency and trying to learn the tools and how I can apply it to my on-the-ground work. And that'll help me kind of learn them and feel like I actually can stand up and visit with folks about the tools. And then we can visit more about later down the road, because it's not until November, really, until I have to probably be completely conversant in the tools.
And when you want, so you probably don't need I don't know when you would want like the materials. I don't even know if you have time to look at them. You can always, instead of me just sending them, you could always tell me when you think you might want to start looking at them. That's up to you. Because it is a lot to take in.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll hold off on that and be like happy for those materials in October.
That is fine. And if you have questions about the tools or have more things you'd like to cover, we can do that too. You know, we can follow up.
Okay, that sounds good. And then, so I feel like I need some more. I can play around in the portal, but I don't know if there's another time we can have a call like this where you can go over things in the portal that you think are like really important to share with folks.
Well, we could do, I mean, I think we should do that, and maybe that's something also we could pull Matt into, because I know the portal, but he's the portal I mean, he's even better he's the best at the portal. So I can send you and Matt an email, and we can record that as well. But I'll just find out what's convenient for you and Matt, and we'll set something up, because I definitely think that would be helpful versus you spending time trying to figure it out on your own. Would be just quicker for us to give you an overview. And we've done portal overviews for like the Tennessee River Basin group, but there are things that Matt might be it'd be really good to have him on, so there might be things that he thinks to show you that I might not think of.
Perfect. Okay. That sounds good. Then I think I'm good for the tools. I think I'll spend time just playing around with those. I need to still familiarize myself with the LCD more. And then the database, so I got your information, your email back about just the spreadsheet. Open that email. Where it is. So I'll add a column or two for funding. Because it might be good, I guess, like, do you think it'd be good to have a column where it's like funding source and it can be like public, private, or something like that?
Absolutely, yes, because that was one thing a guy had talked to, I don't remember who it was at this point, because that gives them a way to find out, like, for match, whether it's federal or non-federal dollars. So if they're writing a grant and they collaborate with you, could they use it for match type situation? So that the type of, even if we don't get the monetary amount, the type of funding source is good. I mean, in some ways it'd be good if we had values, but if we don't, then at least we have the different sources. It's really good information to have. Okay, so I'll do that. I might add a column or two regarding funding. I'm just writing this stuff down. Okay. No problem. And then, so when I was out west, we got our hands slapped multiple times for having shape files. Like so for the Avian Knowledge Network, like how they do it, it's like open to the general public. Usually it's only conservation professionals that utilize it, and you could only zoom into a certain level because they didn't really want to show the shape files because people could identify whose plot of land it was, and then another project, it was people had concerns about that. So that was my my one concern with. That is, yeah, with the project-specific data, that is a concern. So we could take the approach you suggested, like that's one option, or what another option is that we house internally the project-specific data, and then we generalize it at different watershed and geographic boundaries. Okay. Okay. So you could do it either way, but as far as if we want people to be able to download the data, which I think some people want to, we would generalize that. If there's privacy concerns, we could generalize that to like maybe even a HUC 12 watershed, you know, because HUC 8 is pretty big, and the jury's out on how useful that is, but if we have the project-specific ourselves internally, we can create that at all different kinds of levels, you know what I mean? Okay. But so that's still something to be discussed, potentially. Okay. Okay. So I think I'm just used to, like, people that own 20,000 acres out west, where it's probably different back east here where you can't really like if you go to the HUC 12, it's probably multiple landowners, where out west, I think that's what we were running into, is that they just held so much land that it was like, oh, yeah, that's Joe Farmer's, you know. Oh, no, yeah, you are right. It will be different. There are definitely smaller landowner parcels here. Okay. I got to get used to that again. No, that's definitely true.
Okay, so then do you think, so at columns for funding, do you think I need to, besides that, do you think there's any other columns that I should add, or?
I don't think so. I think you did a good job of getting all the important points, because none of the other participants really offered